snow. Let's go. Which is funny because it's less cold than yesterday. Yesterday was absolutely freezing. Of course, I'm not wearing shorts today, so that might be part of it. But don't ask me. I mean, come on. I do think it's a little bit warmer. But yet, still snow on the ground from yesterday. So, not too bad. Not too bad. Today is leg day. That's exciting. Always exciting. Very exciting day. Super icy. You can probably hear my brakes trying their best to not... What is that called? Anti-slip ABS? Something like that. ABS? What does ABS stand for? I forgot. You can hear them, though, on those icy patches, for sure. Alrighty. So, since I'm nursing that lower back twinge that I've gotten recently, that's shown up recently, I do leg day a little bit interestingly compared to what I used to. What I used to do is I used to do squats, nice and heavy, on the Smith machine usually, just to give me a little bit more stability. I would do hamstrings first, then like squats, and then probably leg extensions, and that's about it. But now I have to be a little bit more careful, a little bit more particular about how I do it. I figured out that since it's like my lower right side, and that's like sciatic sort of issue sort of thing. Since that's kind of twingy and, hurts just a little bit in certain positions, I have to do my press movements single leg. So what I end up doing is I get on it's like a hip-loaded hack squat machine. It's not my favorite. I'm going to be honest, it's not my favorite, except for the version of this exercise that I'm doing, which is a single leg Bulgarian hack squat, which is a little bit different, but it's cool. It's cool. If you've ever tried it, I like it. It definitely helps with that lower back rounding, which is the position that hurts that lower back a little bit more. So, I'm probably going to start with that. Either that or start with hamstrings. I haven't been starting with hamstrings recently, and I think that's because, I think that's for a lot of reasons, but I think that's because my hamstrings are just tight, and I think that's why the lower back is hurting and why the lower back is compensating, is because my hamstrings are a little bit tight. So I'm going to end up stretching today. That's what I've been doing recently on leg days, is I go do the working sets, have a lot of fun, obviously. I'm going to do those single leg presses, do a little bit of hamstrings. The hamstrings will be warmed up with those single leg presses. And then do some leg extensions. And then maybe some like hip activation, almost like physical therapy type movement where you kind of just hold a relatively light weight for the musculature that I have. And then I stand there, press my knees outwards with my glutes and hips, and then squat and do like a hinge movement and squat and hinge movement. And that warms up and kind of helps that area, that hip area that I'm having a little bit of trouble with right now. I might do some abs if I have time. I definitely am going to do some cardio, 30 minutes every day. Let's see. I think that's it. I think that's it. So let's see what we got here parking wise. But I'll see you on the flip side, I guess. Alrighty. I took a video of somebody there. I took a video of some of the a couple of the exercises that I do to help that lower back. I was explaining before that it's those hip hinge movements with the knees kind of pressed outwards to really engage those glutes and that hip musculature all around that area. What is it, sciatus or whatever? So anyway, went well. I'll probably be showing that like on the side or something like that. Nice and icy out here still. Dang. Had some thoughts in there about how to motivate yourself. And I think there's a lot of people who talk about motivation is practically a crime, you know? You shouldn't be using motivation, you should just be using discipline. You should just be so disciplined. Why aren't you disciplined? And I think there's steps to this, okay? There's steps to get to discipline. And I think this is how I think about it, okay? You have to use something in your mind. In your mind, there is something that you can use to get you to take action in any way, any action, right? Kind of going back to the first video that I made, hunger causes your body to get up off the couch and go to the pantry, go to the refrigerator, go to the freezer and grab something to eat, right? That's an internal thing that your body is using to get you to give it something, that being food. You can use that with things that aren't exactly natural, aren't exactly just given to you. Like hunger makes you want to go eat some food, right? And the things I'm talking about is like anxiety, right? Some people struggle with anxiety, like way too much anxiety, and it causes them to freeze up and that sort of thing. And of course, with certain people, that can be an issue, right? But I think with a lot of people who say that I just have anxiety, I just, I feel like they're just using it as a buzzword for, I have these feelings and I haven't learned to use them in my life instead of just sitting in them and, wallowing in my despair. I think you can use anxiety. The purpose of anxiety is just like hunger. You can use anxiety to get you to do something, right? If you are anxious, if you're having a bad feeling, whatever that is, anxiety, sadness, you can use that to create something. That's what artists do, right? They use their experiences, good and bad, to create something beautiful. Whether it be, sad, beautiful, happy, beautiful. Some people do scary, beautiful. They draw a scary monster or something. But it's still cool and admirable because you feel like, wow, where did that come from? That is so cool. How did you have the inspiration? How did you have the motivation to do this, right? Where does that motivation come from? And it's always from something internal. So what you need to do is, if you're having trouble getting your butt out the door, getting some hustle and bustle in your muscle, okay? If you have some trouble doing that, what you need is to think, what do I have? Maybe you're not sad. Okay, you can't use the sadness. That's okay. Maybe you're not even anxious. I can't use the anxiousness. Okay, what else do I have? What is something that you have been desiring? whether that be money. And I'm not going to make any judgments right now, because in this scenario, you're still at the beginning. You haven't even started anything yet, okay? I'm not going to make any judgments on your motivations, okay? What is inside you that you want, that you really, really want? And you might need to do some soul searching and figure that out, but I can tell you right now, at the beginning, you're not going to have discipline. You're not going to have the discipline to get out the door at 5 a.m. and go to the gym. You're not going to have the discipline to sit down and write that paper that you're assigned. You're not going to have the discipline to write a book, make a song. You're not going to have the discipline at the beginning to do anything worth doing. Anything worth doing. And I think there's a point where your motivation, this internal feeling that you use, becomes discipline. And at that point, that's when you know you're starting to get the ball rolling, right? And that's when some people run into well, I'm just not feeling it. I don't feel it anymore, right? And that's that internal motivation that you don't have anymore. Now you have to use discipline, right? That's the idea. So anyway, that's my thoughts. I think a lot of people are way too non-actionable. However else you would say that. They have no idea how to turn this internal feeling into a physical action. And I promise you, in 98, 99% of the cases, that's the issue, is you're not using that hunger, whether or not the actual hunger, you're not using that hunger to go get food. You're using that hunger to just be like, oh, I'm hungry, man. I'm so hungry. I'll just sit down here and wallow, and oh, it's so sad. You need to use that hunger to go get some food. You need to use that internal feeling of something is missing to go and get something worthwhile, okay? And the more you can direct that into a good spot, into doing something good, that kind of good spot, the better you will be at life. The better you'll be at anything that you try to do. So anyway, that's my thoughts for today. I will see you next time.